So I'd like to
If you
discuss,
could state your name, please. for
sure,
the record.
Preston Gumbridge. I'm a partner with Robert Amstern Architects. So to discuss what we're doing in the rear yard of the project, we have a section here.
You can take the mic with you, so it make it a little easier for you to be heard. Pull it up. Thank you.
Very good. So we have a section here, if you can all see it, which shows in red the outline of the proposed modifications to the existing townhouse. So the existing townhouse, as you know, is a gut renovation of the building. We are adding one story here on top of the existing building, which is set back just under 20 feet from the front facade. And in the rear, it's important to note, I think, that if you can see this here, the existing rear facade is not a historic facade. It was renovated very heavily in the 1980s and in fact has some oddities such as this fifth floor balcony, which is sort of on its own here. So we are reconstructing the rear facade, removing it and rebuilding it. And you can see in elevation what that will look like. But more importantly, in section, you can see that we're respecting the existing boundary lines of the rear facade. So this projection here, we're respecting, although we're infilling on 2 floors to make it a clean facade in the rear, and also, more importantly, to meet the needs of the school. The classrooms are such that if we did not fill in those 2 voids, the classrooms would be very small and wouldn't accommodate the number of students that are required as part of the school's pedagogy. So you see that there, and sort of lastly, if you can see this, this is a model that we had prepared some time back, which shows the existing rear facade and how we're filling it in. You can see that in sort of pink or red here. So it's very clear and clean, pretty straightforward. And we're not proposing to change the distance from the rear yard to the existing facade. We're just recladding it and extending it out the full width of the lot.
But the red just reflects the area for which a waiver is needed, right?
That's correct.
But you're also adding you're extending the ground floor out one.
We are, and this is well under the 23 feet height limit. It's about 12 feet or so from the first floor grade.
Okay. So, Mr. Angelino, I guess, and probably in concert, one of the things that we talked about was that the programmatic need description, which was very well done by the architect for just with respect to the area for which the variance is needed, was clear, right? But it didn't tie into the rest of the programmatic needs for the school, so which draws you to the need for that particular thing. So for instance, the school is packed and there's no place to go, and these are the things that we need to provide for, and we fit all of those things inside of the school, but there's just these few theater rooms and so on, science rooms that just wouldn't fit there, and the adjacencies and all of that sort of stuff. That story needs to be told in order to support the programmatic needs requirement. Okay?
You're asking us to,
So in the statement of facts, the programmatic needs argument was not clear. But the architect's statement that supported it was extremely well written and clear. It's just that it only spoke about the need for those waivers. So what goes in those waiver areas? It didn't speak about the school in general, all of the different things that are needed in the school and how, for instance, the school bought this building because it had needs, and then what did it decide to put into that building? And then discovers that the building, in fact, isn't big enough for it to do what it has to do. And it's not just a simple statement that that it wasn't big enough, but these are the specific programmatic requirements that the school needs to meet, and its current form isn't meeting those specific requirements.
we can reintroduce those back into the statement of facts that.
I think you're going to need more input from the architect for this, because their report which I see is incorporated in the statement of facts, doesn't address those issues, and you wouldn't be able to do it without them, right? So,
Okay, do you?
okay, do you understand the?
Well, we can add that to the report. That won't be an issue at all.
Right.
In general, we're adding 4 classrooms to the overall facility. So it's that kind of thing that you're requesting, if I
Yeah, but
understand
you're
correctly.
adding 4 classrooms for a specific reason. It's
Sure.
because
Fair
you
enough.
currently have this many classrooms.
Yes.
It's not fulfilling the needs of the students because they have music classes in the hallway or wherever it is, and so,
Yes.
right.
Yep, okay, we can do that.
And then you have,
I just had a question actually for the architect, if he can come back. In sort of your fill-in areas where you've bumped out, are you utilizing sort of that top level there, that roof level now that would appear? Are you going to
I mean,
either there or below? Right in there. Is that going to be some sort of terraced area? Are you using it as outdoor space?
this area here?
Yeah,
No. It's just roof.
okay.
There's no access to it.
And nothing is going on that lower, also the
No,
first
this is
floor
all
extension, right? Okay.
oh, so that's not doesn't become a play deck?
No.
That's a shame.
Well, unfortunately, but it won't be.
Oh, okay. And also, just for Mr. Angelino, I believe, and actually for the architect as well, I believe that the waivers were not enough. I think you have a lot coverage issue because you're increasing the degree of noncompliance with that red portion on that first floor.
Yeah, the lot coverage relates to the, this enlargement.
Right. But
Once
don't-
you go above 23 feet in height for the second and third floor, or 2 stories, then lot coverage comes in, and we're increasing it by about approximately 100 feet. If you want to put it in context, the existing Hewitt site has a 95% lot coverage without the townhouse. When we add the townhouse, it's reduced to a 90.2 FAR. This 100 feet fractionally adds, it's still about 90.2 FAR, but it's a reduction, which goes to the E-finding, that we're actually reducing the overall lot coverage from...
So you're saying that by whatever kind of modifications that, or by adding the townhouse, you're reducing the degree of noncompliance of lot coverage even though you're adding these 2 floors at the rear?
Even though, correct.
But then why would you need, well, okay. You sure about this? Does that make sense? I'm not sure that that's true, so you should check because DOB may get you on that, in which case
Well, we
lot
specifically...
coverage was not one of your requested waivers.
Well, we went through HUB, and we specifically raised it so that
Oh, you did?
all of the issues were raised, so we don't come back.
Okay, so DOB already looked at this and
DOB
is
looked at it
persuaded
and-
that it's an existing
Yes.
reduction in the degree of noncompliance?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, if you could add that to your statement of facts, just so we clear it up for the record, that would be helpful.
Will do, thank you. And now, John Lonergan?
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Joan Lonergan, the head of the Hewitt School. For many years, and I would say about 10, the school has been operating under conditions that are not optimal in terms of teaching and providing the kind of education the girls that we serve deserve. There has been a growth of about 60 students during that period and no growth in the size of the facility. Programmatically, we feel very strongly about the mission of the school to provide the best education possible for each girl and to meet her individual needs and to provide an education that prepares her well to be a contributing citizen and a leader in the 21st century. Our program currently resides in buildings where the classrooms are very small. It's a converted mansion that has very small rooms and 1 ballroom, which we use as our library. The classes, in terms of sitting still and looking forward and having a lecture class, are adequate for the kind of collaborative work that young women need to be doing in order to really prepare for the future and the jobs that they're going to have and the contributions they're going to make. They really need to have a very different learning experience. That's very hard to do in very small rooms that are filled with desks and not have the opportunity to move around and to move the furniture and be flexible with those spaces. That is what the townhouse does. The school has, as I said, been looking for 10 years to find suitable property. We are really committed to the neighborhood. We are not going all over the Upper East Side trying to find property. We are wed to the neighborhood. We have these buildings between 75th and 76th, and then one other location a block away on 76, which houses our K through 3 division. In the building itself that we're discussing, having contiguous property is huge, and to have this townhouse next door has been a very exciting prospect for us. We have spent 3 years with master site planning and then planning for the townhouse to provide the kind of spaces that we do not have currently in our existing facilities. And that means not only in our middle school and upper school, which are contiguous to the townhouse, but also in the lower school, which is a block away. Our students from the lower school right now come to this facility on the middle school and upper school for all of their physical education programs and assemblies, a variety of things that require the large space of the gymnasium. In the lower school, we have growth as we have throughout the school, and a lot of our spaces are tight. One of the needs that we have that is really dire is space for our itinerant teachers who don't have a classroom, like science and our languages. They don't have an office, they don't have a desk. They are literally backpacking it from one room to another without a station. Also, all of our specialists, learning specialists, and others who support the classroom do not have a space as well. We are thinking at this point, what we see as this wonderful addition on the top of the building, set back in compliance with landmarks, is, this is on the townhouse, is to be able to take an inadequate art space at the lower school and bring it over to the townhouse, and that will be what the use on the roof is, that extra space on the classroom on the top will be for lower school art, and it is larger and much more suitable for the kind of work that we're doing with young children. There is an elevator in the townhouse so that the access to that will be easy for the little ones, and we're very excited about having that possibility. As I said, they do move for physical education, so we would link those classes so that they're not going back and forth any more than they have before, but they get the added ability to use really adequate and much better space. Out in front of the art room is a terrace, and that is open space and on the roof, just in compliance with landmarks, so that all of this is not visible from the street or from any location, really. And that will be used as outdoor art space under supervision. And given the weather and the fact that we do not operate in the summer, it'll have very limited use, but it will be additional space for us in the fall and spring. In regard to the other use, and I appreciate your question about why do we need all of this space, is with the growth of the school and the limited size we have, having a new science lab that can accommodate 20 students is really extraordinary for us. Having a space for our choral program where we can have a whole class of students have the 9th grade together singing is really important. Other than the gymnasium, we don't have those spaces. The ability to have a room where our students who are preparing for a play can actually get together and work in a space that's large enough, rather than just having a few people read lines, that they can actually do a scene. So it's tremendous advantage to this space. It's providing all the things we need. I'll just take 1 minute to tell you what our priorities are. I am very aware of the space constraints of being in New York City and how difficult that is to provide the kind of education that we would like to and have the facilities that we really need to do that. We have, as part of our strategic plan, put a tremendous effort on an emphasis on using the New York City, and I can like to think of it as the capital of the world. If the resources aren't here, they aren't anywhere. And as a school, I think it's incumbent upon us to be looking in the neighborhood in Manhattan for the kinds of resources that we could not afford that would take up valuable real estate around the city, where to not even duplicate, to have a poor second. And so we are making partnerships. We have over 130 right now in the city, whether with theaters, with the New York Genome Center, with the Rockefeller University, with the Audubon Society, with Alvin Ailey Theater, and using their facilities, branching out as much as possible into the community. And it really has reaped tremendous results for our program. The one thing we can't do are the meat and potatoes, the math, the science, the writing, the English, the history that needs to happen in the building. We have to be able to provide adequate resources for. So that's what we're trying to do with this townhouse. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So reference, thank you, was just made to the master plan. So I'm sure in the master plan, there's either diagrams and a write-up of what kinds of thinking went into coming to the conclusion that you need to rearrange the spaces on the interior of the buildings and expand into the townhouse, and then the townhouse falls a little bit short. That we just need that in the statement of facts.
Yeah, I think what we're
Okay?
referring to there is the involvement of Robert A.M. Stern Architects.
Yes, correct.
And their work. So it's
I'm sure they're the ones who did the master plan, the programmatic analysis, so yeah, just ask, just
okay.
phone call. Well, you can, I know it's this. You can distill it into like the executive summary part would be good. And the floor plans, maybe if you have something where it's color coded that says we need this, or maybe you have block diagrams, just something that tells the why. Because as you say, or as I said maybe yesterday, it's a very modest proposal. I don't want to go too crazy, but you still have to make the findings, right? So that's the thing. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers on this item? Okay. So, can you make a submission on the 18th of November?
Mm-hmm.
For a hearing on the 9th of November?
For hearing on the,
9th. I'm sorry, December 9th. Sorry, December 9th.
thank you.
Item number 30, calendar number 31-14-BZ, 165 Spencer Street.
Now it's good afternoon.
You're right.
Okay. Okay, another girls' school. This one is a little easier. Let me give you first the background. The clients have been calling me for about 2 years prior to this application when they were looking for spaces, and each time I would give them the pros and cons, the list of which you have, which I understand you want a little bit more of an expansion on.
Because
Well,
it needs to be in a
yeah.
conforming use right?
Well-
Conforming uses.
Part of what I would like to explain about that is in the conforming areas in Williamsburg, $450 a square foot. you can't. The pressure of residential in these areas is so great. The developers, I was speaking to the rabbi right now, the developers you can't get it. You just plain simple can't get it. Every time they looked at spaces, I said, at least if it's within 400 feet of a residential zone, we can talk about the special permit, but we'll expand on that and give you a bigger, greater report.
Okay, just with respect to that, what might be helpful then is to just get a report of 4 or 5 sites that would be suitable sites, but you can find out the list price.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
get the setup from the real estate agent. That way you
100
can say, look, that's
Yeah,
not.
we spoke about it already.
Okay.
We will take care of that. What happened, the story over here is they needed financing. The bank wouldn't give them financing unless they had approved plans for some sort of community facility. DOB and the hub were fantastic. They helped us out. In 2 weeks, we were able to get an approval, which is pretty much impossible, but we worked with them. They needed to have an approved set of plans showing something legal as a community facility in order to get the financing. And that's why it says synagogue on it. Synagogue is a permitted use in an M1 zone, and we got that. They were able to get the financing. And if you look at the building department side, you'll see the same day that was approved, we already filed to convert it into a school and to start the process of coming here. But they were stuck.
Okay, but the bank was aware that your ultimate goal is a school?
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to undo your
Well-
financing?
No, that's fine. As long as they just needed to see a community facility with accessory classrooms, which is what we got. But the school wanted to be 100%, no questions, so they right away, the same day that they got the approval, I filed the paperwork already for the amendment.
You might want to just rework your statement. It reads as if you were trying to put one over on your financer. So I think you just need to take a look at that and sort of rethink your wording.
Okay, I'll give a
And
look at it.
explain it just as you've explained it, and, say that the financer is
100%,
On board.
is on board with this change.
no problem.
Because it doesn't read like that.
And then that just goes to, I think it was a comment from Commissioner Montanez about the EAS.
Doesn't make it, the phase one doesn't make a difference. The phase one is what's there. When they did the phase one, there was nothing there. The building is.
No, but to acknowledge that it's not a synagogue, that's the.
Well,
step-
legally, it's unfortunately legal. It's very, legally, it's been approved as a synagogue.
No, but in terms of what the analysis is, the last use was manufacturing, what was
Right.
ever in there.
Well, years and years ago, it's
Well,
been
still.
taken.
But did you do a phase 1?
Phase one was
For the
done,
synagogue?
that was given in. Phase two is not
The
for,
DEP?
yeah. When we filed,
The EAS that you gave us didn't have a phase 1. It just says that it just says that there's no underground tanks and there's no hazardous materials.
right, but there was a phase, we did it, the phase,
And you
I
submitted
remember.
it to DEP?
We submitted it to staff, who submitted it to DEP.
Okay, and then the DEP
I'll
will
try
determine-
if-
But it's really a manufacturing use to a school,
Correct.
and that's the way it's been presented. And then the DEP will determine whether you need to do a phase 2.
Correct.
Because with a manufacturing use, for many, many years, I find it hard to believe they wouldn't ask for more
If there's no,
analysis.
if there's no extension, they don't usually ask. They did ask for hazardous air, for air quality, and we just finished crunching the numbers. The report will be ready for us by the end of the week. That's for air,
Okay,
and
but
that's been
at a
taken care
minimum,
of.
I would think they would ask for, vapor analysis.
They
Soil
didn't,
vapor.
if there's no extension, no soil disturbance, they usually don't ask.
Well, we did a school on Sanford Avenue, which was a
I remember
similar
that one. Yeah.
instance, and they inhabited the school
I
prior to
remember that
coming
case.
to us for the special permit, and they did have to put in
A vapor barrier.
a vapor barrier and a system to circulate the air because
I
there
remember.
was,
I-
there were VOCs underneath the site,
Yeah,
and
I
they had
will-
already been occupied.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jim. Jim is also on this case, and we'll see what's going on. But the phase one did say that it used to be a manufacturing site. I'll get you a copy, I'll get another copy of the Phase 1 for staff for
Okay.
to look at.
Okay. I'm just looking at the same, yeah. It's a pretty skimpy EAS, that's part of,
Because,
okay. But I mean, it doesn't even talk about the historical uses on the site. You know, normally you get some of that. It basically skips right into being a synagogue and that the no-build condition is a synagogue and the build will be a school. So it doesn't go into the no-build, it doesn't talk at all about the historical uses. What was that manufacturing building? You know?
I have a copy, you have a copy, there's a wooden heels for shoes.
Okay, wooden heels for shoes. No idea what they made wooden heels with, formaldehyde, I mean, I don't know.
This building's from 1800 something, right?
Yeah.
So I
Just-
mean, even after the shoe company left, there could have been other uses. There's no description of that. I mean, that's what the Phase 1 does.
Yeah,
A thorough
which was one,
analysis. We don't see that.
Okay,
Maybe you did it for the synagogue, I don't know, but I don't see it.
okay.
Yeah, the bank probably required it.
Yeah, the bank required it, the bank wouldn't have given
But then
it.
you did the approval in 2 weeks, so.
Well, that was, that was a miracle. Really have to say, DOB really put themselves out for us on that because in order to help us with the financing.
But in addition to the Phase 1, you know, I think it would be helpful to give us an area study of showing what uses are in
That
the
i-
area. Because the lot across the street is no longer vacant.
Right.
And you're not really going into details. Right across, adjacent to this building is an automotive repair shop or something.
It will be in the air quality he did on the whole area, and that when that comes in, you'll see exactly what's happening in the area. Because he did, and actually, he finished crunching the numbers and everything's okay. So when we give that in, you'll have a lot more information about what's going on in the neighborhood.
Well, but it's like the land use study, for instance, in the EAS, only shows there's a land use map, but, which is actually good, which is the one you should be using for your land use map for the.
Yeah, I didn't understand
right.
what the problem was
Because
on that
the
one.
land use map that's in the application materials is hard to read. It's not the same one, or maybe you did it in black and white, you can't read it.
No,
I don't know.
I-
But anyway, the point is, though, that the land use study, it needs to look at the impact, the potential impact on the school of the surrounding commercial uses, right? And there wasn't any discussion anywhere about that, either in the EAS, which it should be, or in the statement of facts, or statement of findings, which it should also be.
Is this what you have? I checked.
That's what I have in the EAS, that's not what I have from the
You have
application materials.
something.
Something, I think it was, yes.
It sounds more like a tech problem than
Yeah, it's a tech
this is what I didn't understand when we listened to the
Okay, it's a tech
yesterday. So the next, I'll put in a new copy in the next,
No, but you're going to give us details on all those manufacturing and industrial uses.
yeah,
Right.
that will be to get, truthfully, it's gonna, I'll get it off the air because he had to do that in order to do the air quality. DEP required him to do that.
Okay. Okay.
I know.
Oh, I had questions also about the transportation in terms of the number of school buses and whether or not there were going to be monitors for pedestrians
Yes.
who were walking as well as monitors for the buses and how that was going to take place. Because I drove down this block and maybe there's a residential presence on here, but there was an awful lot of commercial activity and a lot of workers in and out with all sorts of things. There were lots of trucks, small vans, all sorts of activity going on. And it didn't seem particularly safe to me. So I think that I need a little bit more information about how you're going to facilitate the arrival and departure of the young people.
Okay, I'll just read you an email that I got from the rabbi last night after he watched the recording. We rented a lot elsewhere to park our buses, and by arrival and dismissal, we have a system of our teachers and monitors directing and helping the kids getting on and off the buses. But I will add that into,
Where's the lot located?
I'll,
I know.
you let,
Yeah.
I don't want to
That'll
start.
be part of it. Okay,
I'll-
so
I'll
explain
put
where
it
it's
in.
located. Do all the buses go there? Does some stay parked? I mean.
I don't,
How many
I-
buses?
Yeah, so we'll put that all in.
Then there was another thing, just in terms of cleaning up of paperwork, the community board recommendation that we got is for a different location. If
I
you
never
get
got
the
it.
right one.
Problem is, I showed up, we had the meeting at the community board at the zoning committee, and that's the last I heard from them.
Okay, so if you could give them a call and say, please send us the right one, because this is for another one of your projects, I guess. So it was addressed to you, so I'm assuming it's another one of your projects.
If I could get a copy of that from staff, maybe somebody
Yeah.
could just email it to me so that I have some sort of frame of reference to work with.
Okay. And then, so we talked about that the EAS needs to, this isn't consistent with the bus discussion, that
Right.
you have a lot of children, right? So there
Oh.
should be a discussion about traffic study, parking impacts, and even pedestrian circulation issues. Because I think, as was mentioned yesterday, this is a busy street, and how's this going to be impacted with all these kids getting out of buses, and when they get out of school and they're all walking on the street and all that stuff, what's that do? And also their interaction with the commercial uses, right?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of the safety of the students and the ongoing activities commercially.
Yeah, we'll put Jim to work on this.
And so then, could you just talk about, and we talked about again about having, you mentioned that the buses will be parked elsewhere. but
Correct.
How will the bus traffic be directed? Where will there be monitors that make sure that the buses leave as soon as they're empty and make sure it doesn't clog the street? And then one of the questions really was about the appropriateness of having this many students in what ultimately for you is a small building, right?
Yeah,
Compared to the other building we
I have
talked
to
about.
correct that a little bit. It's a little bit unclear. They have a building now where the school is about 2 blocks away. The high school will remain there, and the 500 students will be in this building, which this building fits 500. When they need more, they'll have to deal with it at that point in time. But they're going to put the 500 students into this building. This-
500 lower and middle? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
lower and
Well,
middle?
they call it elementary. In the Orthodox community, they're calling it elementary and high school. They're not very,
No, but so, when we're talking about the 500 students, what's the age range for these students? Or grade range?
preschool till, from kindergarten to 8, or preschool to 8.
So it's preschool to 8. So
Right.
yes, so
Things
we're-
that's been in flux, and this is what, finally, I will correct all the paperwork to represent
Okay,
that.
so, all right, so it's not the high school also, which was kind of hard to get.
They would love to do that.
But they don't have the room. But still, we're talking about 500 students.
Right.
In the essentially gross square foot above grade of 26,000 square feet. And so I was just looking up, recommended areas per child for all different kinds of schools. And they come down to numbers like 53 square foot a child in the classroom. Never mind the gross area of the entire building. How are you getting this many kids in such a tight place?
The plans comply with New York City Building Code and the number of children per classroom. That's the best. They don't have, they can't get more space. It's very, very hard, as you know. And every classroom has the square footage and the number of kids. I can give you a table of the square foot per person in each classroom. That's not a problem, but they all comply with the 2014 building code.
So you're saying within the classroom, you've got sometimes 23 students in the class or 25
Right.
students in the class. The
28,
classroom
I think
sizes are meeting whatever the occupancy load
Correct.
requirements. Yeah, so if you could show the occupancy load requirements.
Not a problem.
But then I'm curious about even egress and all the kids get out of class at the same time. I mean, how does this work? Do the kids stay in a classroom for the whole day? Do they
Usually,
move around?
no,
How does
no.
this work?
Most, they stay in the same classroom.
But they go to a cafeteria.
Right,
So there's a
They're
point
gonna
where
be-
it's lunchtime.
right.
So how's that work? How many kids go to lunch at the same time?
We'll write it up.
Right.
Not,
Because-
that will be together with the occupancy table. We'll give a whole description of the operation, plan of operation of the school.
Right, exactly. Because it's like hard to imagine 500 kids in the corridor all at
Oh,
once.
yeah.
That's terrifying. So,
I agree.
okay. Um, Okay, any other comments?
No, just, I agree with the chair. I sort of had trouble envisioning all of these kids in
No,
sort of this one building. And one specific question, though. You've got a door from an office that goes out of the Spencer. Is that, what is that going to be?
Rabbi's office. Most of the staff that runs the school are women. The rabbi has a separate entrance to be able to come in, so he's not circulating, and he runs the financial aspects. So when people come to pay tuition or whatever, they don't have to go through the building, they can lock up the rest of the building also.
Okay, so you could just notate that. And then also, just in terms of operationally speaking, you only have one, rather, what I would consider a small kitchen for this.
This school only serves dairy. They don't serve any meat.
Okay,
That's
all right.
convenient.
That answers my
Yeah.
second question.
If they
was
would need a
where's the
meat
other
kitchen, we would have to do a separate kitchen, or
Yeah.
actually, I mean, I have a rabbinical degree also, so I can tell you a little bit about this, but you can separate to one side and the other side, but people usually don't like to do that because you have workers who don't know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden, so, but I spoke to the rabbi beforehand because I heard this question, and he said they're only serving dairy. This design was given to me, which I just reworked to work with code.
So this is the first vegetarian.
Not vegetarian, dairy. No, it's
Kidding,
dairy.
just kidding.
Oh.
Did you provide us with a streetscape on this?
I don't remember.
Is it just me that didn't seem to see this? Am I not?
Not a street, there's photographs of the
But I
existing
mean, did
building.
he,
No, but it's existing.
I know, but he's probably doing something to the exterior, right? Are you doing anything to the exterior, or is it just going to remain?
It's just going to remain, they're cleaning it up, replacing the windows, they put a sign on, that's.
So you don't need to add windows to make for the classrooms? You're good with the
We're
fenestration?
good with fenestration. There's no requirement. They will need a ventilation system, I mean, for ventilating the classrooms, but yes. But
Did
that's,
you do noise measurements?
I don't know. I'll get back to you on that.
Right. But that should be.
Well, I have to ask
well.
Jim. That
Okay.
didn't come up, so I didn't look into it. I'm
He was
sorry.
here, too bad. Okay. Okay. Is that all the comments?
I think so.
Okay, are there any speakers on this item? I see a lot of supporters, but no speakers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I don't want to, if you want, I can put one after
No,
that.
it's fine. They're in favor, so that's. Okay, so how much time do you need for this submission?
You know what, do me a favor, give me the same day as the other one. No,
What?
that's the end of January.
Yeah, that one was long.
That's very
No,
far.
no.
Can we have a date in the beginning of January, somewhere?
Oh, sure, a date in the beginning of January, that's the 6th of January. So working backwards, your submission would be the 16th
That's fine, of December,
of December, yeah.
right. Okay,
Great, thank you.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Item number 31, calendar number 56-14-BZ, 161-51 Bailey Boulevard, Queens.
Good afternoon. John Ronan appearing on behalf of the applicant. As the board knows, this is a reinstatement case in accordance with sections 1141, 11411, and 7301D. I think the best way for me to proceed would be simply to respond to the questions that were raised at the review session yesterday. The first item that I have is with regard to the restoration of the fencing and the planting of shrubbery. That will not be a problem at all. What I'm looking at now is our proposed conditions drawing, which is the latest one that was submitted with the response to the notice of comments, and that's our drawing A003.01. What I would suggest, I'm looking for areas where the planting would be most beneficial, and if we look along the northerly lot line, I could place planting all along that line. I would propose that it be 4-foot-high evergreen bushes, 4-foot-high on planting, 4 feet apart on center. I can revise the drawings to show that. We can also put a note on the drawing that all fencing has to be restored. And that's work we can certainly do right away. I don't see any room for putting any shrubbery along Baisley Boulevard, nor along Guy Brewer, but we could certainly put it along the northerly lot line.
And I think are you gonna be replacing that fence also?
Well, we're going to a full restoration. Any fences that either need to be restored or replaced, that's the note I want to put on the drawing. That physical work will be done, yes.
Okay.
But I figure just to lock it all in, you'll have it in your resolution and you'll have the note on the drawing.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is a bit of a problem for this type of case. It's a reinstatement, but the concern that the board raised was whether or not we submitted adequate information to demonstrate continuous use. Now, let me just provide a little background. Our client here is the Capital Group, and what they are is that they're a wholesale distributor of petroleum services. They originated in Washington, D.C. They have stations throughout the area down there, and they also have stations throughout New York City now. But they're a relatively young company that started in 1987. And what they did here in New York is they came in and they purchased leaseholds from Petroleum Marketing. Petroleum Marketing was having a great deal of problems, as is evidenced by this particular station. It hasn't had a certificate of occupancy since, I believe, 1994. So they took over the leaseholds. On this one, they took the assignment in 2012, October 2012, and that came, as I said, through Getty. Well, then this is around the time that they brought us in. The first problem that they incurred was there was an operator on the site that was conducting a U-Haul operation, so I informed them that that use was not permitted, that it would have to be discontinued. There was pushback from the operator, and there was also a problem with the very large arrearage. There was an ejectment action that was brought, and that operator was removed. The marshals came in, those U-Haul trucks were physically removed, and they were without any operator at all at that point. I know the board was concerned yesterday as regards the timeline on that. That operator was removed approximately 6 months ago, and there is a new operator in place right now. I know the latest photographs don't reflect that, shows an empty lot, but there is an operator there now, and he's been there for approximately 1 month. So that's the time frame.
And they're doing gas sales and repairs?
Yes.
Just repairs?
Just accessory repairs and gas sales. Now, what I want to get at is that we've been, at the pre-application meeting, the issue of continuous use came up, and I tried to get everything I could. The problem that we encountered is the operator that was there, Top Cat Management, they refused to give us anything. We had them evicted in landlord court. Actually, we never got into the U-Haul issue. It was enough just to get them evicted on the substantial arrearage that they have. So there's no working relationship there at all. They refused to give us any of their all records. And then when we went back to Petroleum Marketing, and also to Getty Petroleum Marketing, that is, and also to Getty Real Estate, the position they're taking is, look, you got the assignment of the leases. Our deal is done. We're not going to go looking through all records now and see if we can find vendor agreements and things to substantiate your continuous use issue. That is your problem. So what we've done as best we could is we went to the public records. We've been down to the fire department. We went to the New York State DEC, and we've accumulated all the records we can. There's been a very sincere effort made here, but I don't have anything else I can provide you with. I'm hoping that the fact that these are public records, that there is no opportunity for any alteration of these records, and my testimony here, my representation, that you'll take that and view it as a continuous use. There has been a continuous use at this site. We have, I know there have been fire department inspections in the past, I just can't document them. We do have a fire department violation, which was issued in 2012, which we're dealing with. But the site has been, except for this 6-month time period, has been in continuous operation.
How about phone records or something like that? Reverse telephone?
I will try.
Or Con Edison bills, something like that?
Well, these are the type of records that we had hoped to get from Top Cat Management. They refused to give us anything.
You could probably
You
get
can
it
get
from
them.
Con Ed,
Yeah,
actually.
you
You
can get
don't,
it
you
from
don't
Con Ed.
need the actual operator. You, as the owner, can probably pull those records just because you're the owner of the property.
Yeah.
All right, I
And the
appreciate
ready
that, and
book?
we'll certainly follow through on that.
The Ready Book provides the business listings, right?
What is that now?
It's the Ready Book, I think it's called. It's the business phone listings year by year for every location in the city.
I'm not familiar with it, but I certainly am going to pursue that.
I had a question about the adjacent property that's under the same ownership, because we've gotten some objections from local residents, and I think a lot of it probably has to do with the condition of that property.
Yes. That property, just so we clarify the record, is Lot 35. That's the adjoining parcel, which we have also acquired as part of acquiring the leaseholds. I received a telephone call from a local resident after I had sent out all the notices, and his concern, of course, was the fact that that area has been overgrown with vegetation, and because of that overgrown vegetation, they observed rodents on the site. So I contacted my client immediately after that call, which was, I guess, about 3-4 weeks ago. And as far as I know now, that I haven't been out to the site, but that vegetation has been cleared.
Oh.
And if it hasn't been, it'll be done immediately. But I know they had a company that they used just for these type of maintenance services, and they did send someone out. As far as I know now, that is gone. There is no vegetation there.
Right, but that's a temporary measure. How can we be assured that, it's going to be maintained that way, or that there'll be some way to take care of that property so it won't become a nuisance again?
It's a little, the resolution that the board eventually adopts is going to pertain to Lot 36, but I would have no objection as an ancillary matter to referring to Lot 35 in the resolution, and then I guess you could cite, I think it's section 7222, there's some section that says that the board can attach any reasonable condition to its grant. I think as long as it's under the same ownership, I don't think there's anything unreasonable with mandating in the resolution that we have to monitor this site, not only in terms of vegetation, but there are also illegal uses that were popping up over the years. It's a vacant property, and people would just get on there and use it. I know I had done this case many years ago for this particular site, and I remember when the board granted its approval at that time, they had us put a note right on the drawings, which I see. It's on the existing condition plan, and it says vacant lot 35, same owner for conforming use only. I would suggest that we do this again, but we make it a more detailed statement that it, regards to monitoring, and that we tie it right into the resolution. I would have no problem with that.
I have a question, though, about that site. It's vacant, why? I mean, this owner is, your client is the owner of this property, right? What is it that they do with this site? What's the purpose of this site? Don't they want to sell it? They're
Well,
planning on expanding this facility? What's the?
I don't mean to parse words. My client they're not the owner. They have the leasehold, so they're not
they're
the
the
fee, they're not the
leasehold.
fee owner.
Okay.
But the other thing is that I don't think at this point, they purchased about maybe like 6 of these leaseholds, and I think the immediate concern was to get certificates of occupancy as quickly as possible. So they weren't looking to do any expansion. The issue that did come up, they asked me about, and I explained to them that would require an entire new BZ case if you wanted to expand into the adjoining lot. I can ask. I don't know that they've given it much thought at this point. But I do know that no one has mentioned to me any specific intention for that property.
Because it sounds like really that lot is really a nuisance, a bad nuisance for the neighbors, right? Is it currently fenced? The photographs don't show whether the site is fenced. Did anybody notice that on the site?
I think it's fenced.
Yeah,
But
it looks like it.
probably you could take a look to make sure that the fencing is
Intact?
in
Yes.
good condition, and maybe where it's not, or if the fence in total is not in good condition, you know, you could replace it with a new fence. And maybe if they're not going to use that lot right now, maybe there's an opportunity for some landscaping in there. That, you know, that might in itself sort of, you know, keep people out from utilizing it in an improper, you know, manner. If it's sort of nicely maintained and you've got some nice shrubbery in there and it looks good and it looks like it's being used in some way.
All right.
So you might want to take a look at that.
Is that something I would need to depict on the proposed condition drawing as well? Because
Yes.
it's the adjoining.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
But just understand, so your client, the lessee, does they have control over that property too?
Yes, that's what I was told, that when they acquired these leaseholds for this site, they had control over both Lot 36 and Lot 35. I'll confirm that, but as far as I know, that's the case.
Okay. So then, if it's completely fenced, you shouldn't have to jump over the fence in order to get in, right? So there should be some way of access for the property owner, the lessee, to make sure they're inside that place, taking care of it, cleaning it out, because apparently
Oh, certainly,
there's
there should be a man gate.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Anything else on that? I'm assuming no speaker, oh, yes, there is a speaker, look at that, okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Lighty. I own the property, me and my wife and I, right behind the gas station. Been there about 8 years, and it's been a nightmare. Everything from rats running out of there whenever they do any work in the backyard. Just recently, they did some kind of work digging it all up with backhoes, and that caused rats to run everywhere. Ran into my house. I got exterminators. I just got a $350 bill. It's weeds, it's a whole gamut. Streetwalkers, everything goes on in this lot. We've been dealing with it for the last 8 years. I've had numerous conversations with the owners, occupants. I never get a straight answer. Besides the weeds and all the other problems and rats, the fencing, it's not fenced in. I worry about my wife every day when she walks past there. It's partially fenced in, and there's boxes of these big clothing bins that kind of obscure your view from the street. But you can drag anybody into that lot. I sent pictures, I don't know if you got it, I sent 2 envelopes of pictures, one registered and the other regular mail.
They were hard to see, did you bring hard copies?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I brought large pictures because I want you to see how I'm living. It's not nice. I have a picnic table in the backyard. I can't have my grandkids there. I got 5 grandkids, and they can't run around out there. It's got everything going on, and I'll pass this out to you. But I just wanted to take time from my day to let you know that we've been begging. Our neighbors have been getting together. They couldn't come today. You know, we all have working schedules, but it was important for me to be here. You know, I'm not getting paid to be here, but I had to be here to let you know we can't live like this, or we're going to have to move. That's another thing, property values. Tried to sell my place because it just got unbearable. Said, nobody wants to live behind this place. Nobody. You know, between the weeds are like 7 feet tall at places in this lot. I checked today, and it looked like there might have been some kind of activity in a day or two. But what happens when it's cleaned, it's right back to the same state in 3-4 weeks, and then the process starts all over, calling 311 and asking for help. But so that's why I'm here today, just to let you know.
But what you're talking about is really the vacant lot, not the service station, right?
Well, I thought it was all, it's the vacant lot, but I thought it was all the same owner. I've been told that for the last 8 years, they had intents, they were gonna park cars back there. It was gonna be all kinds of facilities used for this empty space, but it never actually, nothing ever happened. You know, like I said, we call 311 and the inspectors come out, they get either ticketed or whatever, and they clean it up real quick, and we're right back where we started 3 weeks later.
But I mean, if the vacant lot next door were landscaped and the fencing were intact and it were closed and all of that stuff, the issue isn't really about the gas station itself, right?
Correct.
It's about the vacant lot, so that's really the focus.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. You know, another thing, we're not looking to not have a business there, you know? We're not looking for vacant lots. We want, you know, to build up the community. It's just the fact that just the lot being there, everything goes on in this lot after hours. So, no, it's not the gas station. We want the gas station there. You know, it does provide jobs for individuals, and having somebody there is better than just having an empty lot there.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And I'll give the pictures so that you can actually see.
You could give them to Ms. Matias right there.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other speakers on this?
First, let me say that I was genuinely moved by Mr. Lightly's comments. No one should have to live next door to that. I do have some influence here. I mean, I'm dealing with the client. He wants to get something through to eventually get a certificate of occupancy. So I am indeed going to stress to him what has to be done with the adjoining lot. I'll confirm that in fact they do have the leasehold, I believe they do. And if that proves to be the case, then I'm going to explain what we need to do. We need to do some landscaping there. We need to have an entire perimeter fence with a man gate in front so that we'll have access to do the maintenance that has to be done. I have no objection to anything said. That has to be addressed.
Right, I'm wondering
Can
whether
you
there should be lighting even,
Oh,
lighting of the vacant lot. I mean, yeah.
And that might help, you know, to sort of alleviate the whole trespassing issue and, you know, just make sure, though, that whatever lighting is put in there, whatever you're going to propose, you know, does not shine into, you know, neighbors, residential neighbors' windows. It's directly down.
It's downward, yes.
But, you know, perhaps while the, is it a 24-hour operation on the service station?
That's what we're calling for, yes. I think that's in the in our statement. I don't know what's
So-
there now, but
So
we're,
during the hours in the evening, I guess, when, you know, the service station is operational, maybe there's security lights back there or something.
and could you remove the 2 clothing bins? It doesn't even really appear to be on your property.
yeah, it's so frustrating. Actually, when we first get these type of cases, and I set up pre-application meetings, I always do that, I give the client a listing of what has to go, and that was one of the things. No, I will stress that. Again, if my client has full control over the adjoining site here, the clothing bins have to go. We'll get them taken.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, if we just look at I saw the community board voted against this also.
I know.
So, you know, obviously they were persuaded by the neighbors' concerns. And so, sort of what we've been trying to do here is, before being willing to make a decision on this, we want to see some serious activity to make an effort to make this site not a nuisance, because that's when we can enforce. And in this case, if we do decide to grant, it's going to be for a short term so that we can be sure that your client is
I'd like,
following up with their responsibilities.
what I would like, and you give me an opportunity to demonstrate the efforts that are going to be made, I'd like to visit the issue of the term a little later on, because
Okay.
I would ask you to remember that this, you know, Capital Petroleum Group is coming into this October 2012. And they're coming into the New York market, and they're, trying to put their best foot forward. Given the amount of effort that goes into something like this, I'm going to be asking for a 10-year term, and I'll hope that after I've demonstrated what we're going to be doing here, that you'll give us that consideration.
We can talk about it, but at the moment, I don't know how else we can ensure that that lot is taken care of unless they come up with a solution for how that lot's going to be used where it doesn't pose a nuisance, which clearly is, right? So,
I will definitely be stressing these concerns, and like I say, this board has always been very fair to me, and just give me an opportunity to demonstrate photographically the work that's going to be done, and then, well, like you say, we can revisit it later.
okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to need to set some
Yeah,
dates.
yeah. Okay, so a submission on, where are we? The 18th of November for a hearing on the 9th?
That was initially what I was going to ask for.
Now you
But
need
given the
more time.
discussions I'm going to have here and to really I'm hoping to get some work done and some photographs into you before the next,
Okay.
So if we can do something maybe like in early December and then a hearing in January, that might be
That's fine.
better.
So how about a submission on the 16th of December
That's good.
for a hearing on January 6th?
January 6th. Yes, that'll be fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 32, calendar number 100-14-BZ, 1490 Macombs Road, Bronx.
Hello, good afternoon again. Eric Palatnik on behalf of Rothkrug Inspector.
I don't think we had any comments on this, right? Are there any speakers on this item? Okay, I think we can close this, so for a motion to
Goodbye, sir.
close. Thanks.
Motion to close, Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry? Decision date? Oh, sorry, decision date. Sorry, I think I need food.
More to go.
What are we, decision, for a decision date on the 18th of November.
Thank you.
Item number 33, calendar number 114-14BZ, 2442 East 14th Street, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon again, Eric Palatnik. And with me here today is the owner of the property, Mr. Vaisberg. We attended your review session yesterday, and we heard the board's questions, and I'd like to address them in whatever order you see fit. If you wanted to raise them, or if you would like for us to address what we heard,
Well, want to go through them?
we'd be happy to go through them. I guess I'll start with, the first question was, I believe you discussed whether or not, how the building has an application for an alteration, or whether it qualifies under the special permit. It's an alteration, type 1 application has been filed at the Department of Buildings, which does meet the requirements of the special permit. We are maintaining 50% of the floors and the walls, which also would qualify for the special permit. So we believe we're rightfully here as the special permit. I think what I heard really from the board, though, is a discussion about the size of the house. And that was the comments of the board. And first, I don't believe that the request that we've made is much different than previous applications that have been brought before the board. And we'll show you some history of similar types of applications. But I think actually the request here is rather modest, given the age of the home. The home is 100 years old. It was constructed before 1932. We've shown you a Sanborn map. And it's sort of configured in an odd configuration. It's pushed right up on the front of the property. It doesn't line up with anything around it. And it's an oddball from everything else around it. And consequently, the comments the board made with respect to maybe the yard, going into the yard in the rear, I think all reflect the fact that the building and the front yard, all relates to the fact that we have an existing building that we're working around, an existing home. We're limited because we are in the floodplain. We cannot go into the cellar for any uses at all whatsoever. So that's another reason why we're asking for what we're asking. Just typically space that would be within a home, which you're all familiar with. I'm sure you've been in many homes where the basement is, or a cellar is an integral part of the home. I know in my home it is, not only just for the mechanicals, but also for the children to be playing. In this home, there are 3 young children, and other places, studies and other things for the children to do. Here, we don't have that space. So we're literally cramming 1 2-year-old and 2 slightly older children, 9 and 13, and 2 adults into, which is what I think is not that much square footage, about 3,500 square feet, which lays out to about 1,500 square feet at the first floor and 1,500 square feet at the second floor. And that square footage at both of those floors includes mechanical space, and it includes the garage space. It includes hallway space, and when you look at the floor plans that you have in front of you, I'm sure you've studied them closely, as I'm looking at, here I am in the right plan. There really is not much excess here. This is not a home that's being built to meet somebody's ego. This is a home that's literally being enlarged to accommodate a modern family. The bedrooms are modest in size. Everything is literally just, you look at that second floor, and there's not an inch spared anywhere. It could be considered anything near a luxury of space, but rather more just an accommodation for a modern family in Brooklyn to be able to stay in Brooklyn. Which, and I heard your conversations earlier, that was really the intent of the special permit, was to allow families to create homes for themselves out of these older homes. There was a recognition that the housing stock was old and outdated and built for another period of time. And that's exactly what Mr. Vaisbert is doing. He's taking an old house, but certainly not in great condition, and he's going to invest a lot of money to rehabilitate it. I know you had questions about the lighting, about the light and air and the ventilation. We spoke with the architect last night, and he assured us that the light and air requirements and the bedroom sizes are all meeting code with respect to ventilation and with respect to room size. I wasn't able to, in the overnight hours, get for you all the code sections to prove it to you, but I'd be happy to, hopefully the owner is hoping for a brief layover, get that for you rather quickly.
How about the distance from the sidewall where the bedrooms face to the adjoining property's sidewall? We need, just to understand
That distance, you're looking for that distance.
Yeah. Also, is the garage part of the floor area calculation?
Yes, they are.
So in order for it to be a more representative proposed FAR, that should be taken out. And ditto for mechanical, because it's quite a large floor area increase that's requested. So you should.
We are, but once again, I really urge the board also, please, to consider the fact that, since Sandy, the lack of cellars and basements is a tremendous impediment on any single-family house. I mean, it really, I played a little, what did I play last night?
Sympathy to Fire Island.
The cat game, Hello Kitty. I played in the basement, Hello Kitty match cards last night for an hour and a half in the basement. I mean, and that's just not me. I'm sure that's every person. Every person. That's what I do in my spare time these days. It's more enjoyable than most everything else I do these days. But it occurs in the basement, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. You all know people with young children, and you've all been in suburban homes, I'm sure, which have this setting.
Well, I have a question about your garage specifically. And take a look at your sections, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but it appears that you are saying that you're continuing your grade elevation at 9.33, but you're also keeping your first floor elevation at 13.62.
Correct.
And you also have now a garage. And the big question is that how does the car fit in a 5-foot space between 9.33 and probably something under 13.62?
No, because it's not, the section shows that there's a step.
There's just, it could be clearer. When I heard your comments yesterday, and I looked at the section closely, I see your confusion.
And I see the steps, but the reality is that you've actually lowered your garage level. Look at section 1.1.
That's what I'm on. I'm staring at that.
Right, so now, I'm entering, how do I get down to that level from?
There is a staircase, which is...
No, how do I get my car into that level?
Oh, that's grade. That's
Where
coming in from grade.
Yeah, grade elevation
That's
is
coming in right from the
933.
street. It's straight, it's a straight run. There's no drop at all. It's level with the street.
Grade elevation is 933,
Yeah.
and the garage elevation is 9.5. So assuming that, which is normal.
It's basically at the same elevation. And there's a set, he didn't show, the architect did not show as clearly as he could have in the section.
No, because he actually shows, even on the front elevation, see where he says 9.33, and then where he has his first floor?
1362.
Yeah.
I see what your confusion is. I'll have him clear it up.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Your garage door is actually popping up higher than that, right? Yeah.
I'll have him, it's not meant to. It's meant to be at even with grade, so I'll have him affirm that.
Okay.
Okay. And then, well, and just for consistency with the other applications, because you are, well, let's see, you're not increasing the roof height at the front, right? You're just
Correct.
continuing that.
Correct.
So it's really more about sort of a view from the street, and when you're looking at this building, which is so much deeper than all of the other buildings on the block, like what is that?
It's so much further up front on you mean so much closer
No.
to the street?
No, it's closer to the street, but that's where it is. That's an
Right.
existing condition. I just mean now you're looking at a building that's quite long, right? 42 foot longer than it was before. So
Yeah, but actually-
is it visible
Go.
from the street is what I mean, you know?
The sides of it,
Yeah,
its
in other
length?
words, if you took a photograph standing in front of this site,
I see what
to a
you're
little
asking.
bit, do you see this?
Actually-
Does it appear to be something really large and ungainly?
I don't think it will, because the homes to the left are all the attached homes, which extend much further into the rear yard than obviously this home does, as well as the home to the right. Those homes have a 30-foot rear yard. And
Right,
the
and
home
this
to the
one will
right,
have
this will have
25.
25, so fairly analogous. And of course, you know, the special permit would allow for a 20-foot rear yard, so it's less than the special permit would allow for. But between the setback of those homes set far back on the left and the other home on the right, which is also not up at the street with us, that home on the right is not set as far back as the homes on the left are. But the combination of the two of them, with the homes all being very close to one another in this neighborhood, I mean, they're very on top of each other here. It's closer than Fire Island. They would be, I think, there would be no impact from the street as far as a visual goes. We could try to display that for you a little bit and maybe put a graphic together that would show you what the eye would catch as it goes
That's
through.
good.
But
Yeah, that'd be good.
we are, and as far as everybody's views from the rear go, as far as all the neighbors that are all sharing the quote-unquote donut of the rear, I don't think we'll be really infringing much upon that at all. I mean, we will be maintaining
it's
the
25
25-foot yard, which is fairly analogous.
But if you could also do that, stand in the rear of the site and take a photograph of what the impact would be, that would be
We'll be
great.
happy. We'll give you a little bit of a graphic.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's, oh, and so then the only other thing was, so the garage is existing, is that correct?
No,
No, okay.
No.
So the garage is a new
going to be
thing.
created.
Okay, so that goes back to that question about, you've got a 2-foot, 2-inch front yard, right?
Right.
So how's that work now, where the car drives up,
The car will just go right into the
it
garage.
has to go right into the...
You see this around the city. They're,
Allowed, is
I
the
think
question.
you have to have the 18 feet in front of your garage.
the architect has spoken with Department of Buildings, and if you'd like, we could affirm it
You're
again.
in
But
R4, yeah.
but they're willing-
You've got to have that 18 feet.
Yeah,
Department of Buildings has accepted it.
I mean,
but-
for anything, it's for safety.
No, of course.
I'm walking down the street and the garage door opens and, you floor it out of there, I'm really in deep trouble.
No, but
So
there
the
are
idea
other
is
situations
that-
all around the city where there are garages on, right up to the sidewalk level. This is not the first instance of that within New York City.
Yeah,
The-
but
They're
we're talking
grandfathered.
about, either a grandfathered situation, clearly not in a single-family home with a front yard regulation of some kind, that even though you don't have one,
Right, but
you're
yeah,
now
we're limited here.
introducing a garage that requires this. So I think your architect has to answer why they feel that they don't need to have this, and, give me the section, give us the section, and explain, how this is going to actually work.
We'd be happy to, and as I said earlier, we did secure the consent of the Department of Buildings, perhaps if we...
Maybe a light goes on or something, if he can do it. I just have.
You just
views of
wanna feel more
someone
comfort
getting
level with it.
smashed by the car.
I understand.
So,
Plus, as,
he's gotta
you know, I
take
was
it.
talking about, you forget your baseball cap or whatever it is, you've already pulled out, you're sitting in front of the garage, right? That means the tail of your car is basically in moving traffic.
Yes. All right, so let me speak to him and see what he's come up with in order to establish that we can have it via.
Okay, great. Okay, are there any speakers on this item? Apparently not. So, how much time do you need for this?
We'd like to submit, if we can, within the next 3 weeks.
Okay, so similarly, then a submission on the 18th for a hearing on the 9th of December?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 34, 150-14BZ, 30 Broad Street, Manhattan. Let's get it.
We heard that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Frederick A. Becker, for a special permit for a physical culture establishment. Any questions?
I don't know that we had any. That's why they pay you the big bucks. So there are obviously no speakers. It's a very empty house. The camera can't see that. So we can close this. And for a motion to close?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
For a decision on the 19th of November?
18th of
18th.
November.
Sorry. 18th, yes. There's a big smudge, yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This concludes the public hearing for October 28th. Sorry, Fred, 2014.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.